Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Winter commendations, we don't have anyone online for that, but we'd like to recognize all the hard work that all the students put in throughout the winter seasons. Many kids did a good job. Thank you. Roll call, everyone is present. Yeah, everyone's present. There are no citizen comments. We'll do board member committee reports, starting with Chad, please.
All right, I did the school board scholar on last Wednesday, and I was gonna say Sue did an outstanding job. I don't know if anybody had recognized her, but her speech.
Thank
I mean,
you.
if you had not, I don't know how long you prepared for that, but
Might go over there, you got
it
a spot.
showed, and it was just an outstanding speech.
Thank you,
So,
Chad.
nice job.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
Other than that, I
That's awesome.
have nothing else.
All right, thank you. Deb?
It looks like I had the school board scholar banquet also, and, agenda planning and the community facilities meeting, and I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Eric?
I attended via Zoom the Princeton meeting with the city and the community, not with the city, but it was the community regarding the facilities stuff. So I attended that.
All right. I had agenda planning last week and the community facilities deal as well. That's all. Sue?
We had a policy meeting tonight and went through the policies that there weren't MSBA policies for, so our local policies, you can look through those. I did the school board scholar event. I had coffee with Ben, which was nice to be outside, and it was just fun to have conversation again. I did the community facilities meeting, and I also had a C business partnership committee meeting, which to help with some of the budget when districts fall away from the C organization, we had 5 or 6 business partners that either put a video in during the meeting or so we're expanding that because C will go back in person in the fall, so they can actually come to the meeting and speak and try to pad the budget a little bit. And that was all.
Nice, thank you. Dawn?
I had the school board scholar program, the community meeting on facilities, policy. I've attended staff appreciation picnic for both the middle school and high school. And then this morning I attended the MSBA new member conversation, so that was interesting.
Jim?
School board scholars meeting, just finished a policy meeting, went to the high school picnic and had a good brat.
How were the burgers? Oh, you had brat.
Yeah, I had more brat. Yeah, they're very, very good.
Good.
It was good. It was good to be back there again. A long time.
All right, thank you. Student council report.
Yes, so student council is wrapping up our year. We have Spring Flame, which is this Friday. That is what we have to look forward to, and then that's really it for us. Yeah,
Graduation.
we handle that, but I worry about that.
You've got 3 days left at school, huh?
Yep,
Nice.
and that's it.
You get a lot of exams?
No, surprisingly not.
Really?
Sort of just a slow fall off of the cliff.
So seniors don't come back until graduation?
Yep, 2 weeks we have where we just have nothing there.
Wow. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, but for the.
Lay low so that we can all go to graduation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, that was pretty intentional, so we would, you know, lower the chances of people be needing to be quarantined and not being able to walk. We just for us, that's kind of the Super Bowl. We don't want anybody to miss that if at all possible. So, and even though technically the school year's done, some students still will have opportunities if they're just finished and need to get some things finished up so that they can walk and graduate.
So will this be your last meeting?
Yes,
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
being part of this.
thank you
And
guys.
liaison, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time all school year to zoom in.
Yes.
I know it's not. It's a
Yeah.
pain.
Thank you guys, yes. It was great being a part of this group of people. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure we get someone nice next year too.
Absolutely.
Superintendent report.
Well, we're excited that we've had a very long journey of ups and downs, and we're entering the last few weeks here of school. There's been some significant changes just in the last week or so. I've tried to keep you up to date. As you know, the governor changed the executive order across the state regarding masks for the entire state, and that came to us with no notice on late Thursday evening, and we had school on Friday. But they were very specific. They said that a couple of places still need to continue on with the requirements of masks, and schools was one of them. And we're just so thankful. We were so worried how that was going to go over, and our students really did a great job. They were very professional. We had really little incidences on that day, and people just understood, and they came to school, and we're just keeping on going. So that was, that's been a newer development. And as related to this, and I think it's just important for us to note this publicly, is that we've been very diligent in following the Minnesota Department of Health, the Minnesota Department of Ed, and the CDC requirements on this whole journey. And, we did as much as we could. The mantra was, we will if we can, kind of a deal. And one of those things I think is important to note is that one of the things that they did come out publicly, the Department of Health and the Department of Ed, is that at school board meetings, governmental school board meetings, masks will no longer be required. So that's why you can see some people, it's an option. People can wear them if they'd like, but if they don't want to, it's not required. So I think it's just important to note that. We had a great community meeting the other day. We had about last week, I think on Wednesday, to provide more information to the public and get feedback on facilities. We had about 50 people participate between Zoom and in person. Of course, we all wish that there would have been a lot more people, and I think everyone's kind of reading, trying to interpret, well, what does this mean? Because we feel like we're overly communicating this in so many different places, and we're not hearing, much resistance or pushback to it. But again, we don't know what it means if not a lot of people are coming to these meetings or not. So anyways, we feel like we're doing what we can to get the information out. And we're thankful for everyone that's participated in that process. The next step in that, the facilities piece, is we have arranged for the long range planning board committee to meet with a couple, I've invited 3 private businesses, if you will, that are in the same, theme of health and fitness, to come to a meeting, because there is an idea to explore about possibly contracting out for service potentially for the fitness center, and or any kind of classes, fitness kinds of classes, contract out with another private vendor to provide that service, right? So we've reached out and we've talked to our attorneys. We know that that's an option. I've had coffee with these folks, but the board members and the long range community or long range facility committees haven't had an opportunity to, talk to these folks. It's kind of an opportunity for us to just have a discussion and, see if it's something that we want to pursue or not. And then if it's something that we do want to pursue, then, I think we would get more in depth with our attorneys to start drafting something. And it's weird because we're having these discussions in kind of all hypothetical terms. Like if the board votes to put something on to a vote, and if it passes, and if, all of these things. But I think that at the beginning of all of this, we really had some priorities, and one was to really focus on partnerships in the community. We wanted to increase the quality of life in our community and provide a significant asset that will be here for now and generations to come. But also we wanted to not, as best as we could, not compete. We don't want to put anyone out of business. So, but that, let's just be honest. We know that every community that has a community center like that has fitness centers in their town, right? So it's not like, I don't know where it's going to go, but it's worth a conversation, and we'll see, where that goes. I feel like I've already been talking too long.
I have one question.
Yes.
Michelle might touch on it, I'm not certain. Do we know where the state is with the budget percentage at all?
Yeah, I'll refer to that. MRE probably had, the most answer to that today. Basically they can't decide on anything until they agree on their budget targets are. So at the very beginning, the governor gives his proposal, then the House comes out with a certain dollar amount. And I think theirs was like, I'm going to throw out like 600 million or 700 and some million. Senate comes in at like 100 million or 100 and a half. So until they, agree on what the amount that they're willing to spend, they can't start kind of divvying things
Deciding
up.
where it's gonna go.
Yeah. So they had this, and you saw it on the news and you saw it through all of the briefings that MSBA sent us. They came out with a tentative agreement after these, late night meetings over the weekend that the target would be at upwards of the high 500 and some million dollars.
MREA said 525
Yep, and then six
for new spending and then 6 something for
next year.
tails
Yeah.
budget.
Is that on top of the 2 and 2?
No,
No,
okay,
no,
so
no.
then what, and if you get a chance, read the MRAA deal, because what they did, they said, just to give you perspective, if the state gave a 2 and a 2, it would be like 400 and some million dollars, right? So I think, people are thinking that there's maybe a chance that schools will get a 2 and a 2, and then there'll be other dollars put into categorical kinds of places. And if you remember when we set our budget parameters, we set it at a 0.5%, right? When we always try and set worst case scenarios. So obviously if it came out at a 2 and a 2, that would be helpful. But also to put it into perspective, okay, like last go around when we got a 2% increase, okay, that brought in, and I'm going to be close on these numbers, but it's ballpark. That brought in like $600,000 more dollars to the district, $700,000. Well, when we negotiated and gave a 2% increase to our employees, right, in 2% compensation, that expenditure increase was $1.2 million, right? So a 2% on the formula is nice and good, and we're thankful, but it still does not keep up with inflation if you give even an average wage and benefit increase. right? So I mean, but again, it's certainly better than a 0.5%.
Mhm, mhm,
Especially where inflation is right now.
mhm.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll end my comments there. Certainly, there's a gazillion things I could talk to you about, but I'll end them. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
All right, motion made by Eric Mink, seconded by Jim. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Opposed? All right, move on to discuss and act on previous board meeting minutes.
Someone,
Motion made by Chad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deb. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Jim. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Eric Minks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. The call for milk bids, is that that's on the consent agenda, right?
Mhm.
All right, information, transportation agreement.
Boy, we got there quick. All right, with the motion to move ahead with planning for tiered routing, we needed to go ahead and look at our Palmer agreement. And they have worked with us to hopefully give us an agreement that we can agree on. I gotta get it so I can read it. Originally, if you recall, they proposed $377 per route for all bus sizes. That's important to note because right now we pay a higher amount for our 80+ passenger vehicles. So all buses would be at were proposed at $377. They have come down to $368.50 per route on a tiered system. They're also allowing us, so this is kind of confusing. I thought we had taken that out, but it says 46. There's actually 46 single tiers, which is 23 tiers. We will be paying for 23 tiers, but we have 46 routes. And they're allowing us to use those 46 singles any way we want. So if we need 24 routes on K through 5 or pre-K 5 in the morning, and we need 22 routes on the second, we can move them around as needed. Summer school, this is new since finance, is that the single tier is for summer school in the summer because we are going to be doing bus transportation this summer, and that may include buses, so we needed a single tier rate. So these single tier rates are just right out of our current contract. There was no change in them. The other thing that we did was van routes. We actually pay a per van. So if we use 8 vans, it's costed out at 8 vans times $253. So all we did there was we took the proposed 20, we're gonna be in 22, we slid the years 1 year. So we had already negotiated those rates, we just moved them up 1 year to recognize the mileage, the extra mileage that they will be putting on with the 2-tiered system.
What's the IRS rate for mileage? Is it like 55 cents?
56 or something like that, yeah.
So the 81 cents, is that? because
That
of
has to do with the fact that they do all of our oil changes and
Oh, sure. Maintenance.
We don't pay for them to do basic maintenance. If there's any, we need to replace the tires, the district pays for the tires directly, but to do a basic oil change, they take care of it.
With fuel going up, do they tack on fuel surcharges at some point, or is that included in here?
No, we have in our old language, there is, if it gets to $3.50, there's a cost sharing agreement that's been in the contract for quite a while. So that has not changed. And we don't pay federal and state tax on fuel, so when you see $3.50 at the pump, that includes,
Yeah,
so they take that off. We did a short addendum to the contract, the word part of it kind of deal. So you got the rate. And that's just, saying that we agree to move forward with the new rate schedule, and it explains a 46 single tiered route, which equals 23 tiered routes.
Is a route considered morning and afternoon, or is it just
Correct.
morning and then a separate afternoon? It's
No, it's,
the whole day.
the route is a whole day.
Okay.
So the 46 tiers, 23 double tiers, obviously you sat down, that's gonna be enough, but what would happen if you needed 47 tiers? Is there an extra cost, or we just simply can't go over 46?
Well, hopefully we won't need more than 46 with flexibility, but if we should, we would pay the additional.
Just another 368.
Mhm.
So there's no penalty to go over that.
No. No, there is language in here that if we should go below the 23 tiered routes or 46 single, that we agree to go back to negotiations. I kept pushing back on that. They actually wanted to put a rate in. I said no to that. And then I was hoping they dropped it. We talked back and forth a few times, but I didn't get them to drop it completely. So it's reasonable to go back and enter into negotiations should we drop below, because they do have an expectation of maintaining their operation at a certain level,
Right.
so.
And their overhead is their overhead, so.
Yeah, it is. So we did agree to that. We did send out also for those that have kids in the district, you may have seen this week for the first time, we have sent out pre-registration for the next year in May, and we plan to continue that. We'll send out reminders, so I'm hoping people will do the paperwork, because we want our buses to be as accurate as possible.
Question on that. So if your kids don't ride the bus at all, do they have to fill out a bus card?
Do not fill out a bus card. Only if you're riding the bus.
All right.
Good to know. So the 368.50 is down from 377. Did you negotiated that? Or
Yeah,
did they
we-
just say, okay, we'll go bring it down?
Yep, Ben and I had an initial conversation with them. And we said, basically you gave us this initial number, but we really never negotiated this, and now we've got permission from our board. So Ben, I told him he was the heavy. And they came down on that rate.
And where do we base our number off of 368.50?
Well, that's their number.
That's their number.
Yes, they came,
Okay.
yep, and we just said,
We didn't give them a number. We just had our expectation was that it was gonna go down.
yes.
And,
But we're not in the busing.
But we can look at our
So-
comparables, I think.
That's what I'm
from
asking.
we had the
Is
years
did
before.
we look at comparables and what other,
Yeah,
The districts around us, other than St. Cloud and Elk River, many of them are in single tiered situations. So And St. Cloud was over $400 for a two-tiered. And St. Cloud, it's the size that they are not comparable to us.
Did they give a reason why 23-24 is gonna be 406? I mean, that seems,
What did you say?
23-24 years, 406.
Oh, those are the percentage rates to go up each year.
And that's not negotiable.
You know, it's a good one.
Well, it is.
The
It
twenty-
is.
We did negotiate that. We talked
part
that
of the deal.
through. Yeah.
Okay, so the 22-23, that,
Three-year contract.
that's no longer negotiable, that's in stone.
Yeah, you know, we didn't, going back to those comparables, we didn't have, that wasn't a good strategy for us to use because we didn't really have any leverage there because we were like the lowest.
Right.
Mhm.
And we have that.
So, you know, if we were gonna go there, they say, well, yeah, it looks like you should go up.
Yeah,
Right.
They're already getting cheap,
Uh-huh.
that's a good deal, right?
Well, and what has happened to them, you know, they run into this whole thing is like overhead is exactly right. Right, whether we have 30 buses or 25 buses, they still need to have a bus manager. Still need to have a dispatch. They still need to have a mechanic
And a building.
in a building. Yeah, so like every, you know, when they're cutting routes, like their rates don't just pay for the drivers and the gas and stuff. It's gotta pay for all that other stuff. Their payroll, you know, and all of it.
Parts, tires.
Yeah.
They are a business.
Right.
For
Yeah,
profit.
right, no problem. We do that, but
We do not want to take on bus.
No,
No.
no.
No, because they could up and leave and say, okay, well, good luck finding somebody cheaper
right.
that will wanna come into this.
At this rate.
Well,
building
and
that's practically full.
the nice thing is, I mean, they're invested in our community. They're, you know, they're even looking for some other long-term solutions, facility-wise and those kinds of things, so they've been actively seeking that. And I think they have some good possibilities.
Well, looks good.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have any questions for Michelle on the busing?
Do they serve other districts too? Probably.
Yeah, they're a pretty big company, yeah, lots.
All right, let's move on to 2022 budget, please.
All right, I'm not gonna go through all of these documents, I'm just gonna mention, the first two will be what we look at, but I did put our restricted and our assigned budgets back on here, we have talked about each of them separately. I do have a list of, reductions that are true reductions for the 22 budget. We have 3.44 staff members that were affected, and actually, I don't think we really affected anyone because there's always some kind of movement happening in personal lives. And then, most of the other items, did not touch people. We did skinny up some things, to get us to over 300,000, and then we have about a $50,000 chargeback from food service that happens at the end of each year that we can probably count on pretty easily next year. We also have this in here for community education. I did not put a dollar amount in there, but just so you know, we reviewed the budget a year ago. We're looking at it and it didn't look as positive as it does today, for as crazy as the year that has happened. Our new staff that are down there have done an amazing job to pull community ed actually forward. We are in a positive state in most of our areas except for preschool, and of course, part of that has to do, well, a lot of that has to do with the pullback of the Pathway 1 grant and the state of Minnesota running out of money there. We had initially counted on, we usually get around 75,000 there, and we're looking at 10 to 15 this year. So a lot of that had to do with that and less students. So for a COVID year, on our year-end review there, I was pretty happy. I'll talk about next year when we get to the original. So if you pull up the first document, the original budget for 21-22. We'll talk about the general fund on the next slide, but food service. We basically are looking at doing the federal program next year. The federal program is slightly different next year. It's a little bit less money. But what we did for a budget is we basically looked at February, March for the number of kids we were serving and took the lower amount and times it by the number of school days we have next year to come up with revenue. Because it is, these 2 years is they're radically different than the past. Staffing is based on current year staffing. There are staff positions we did not fill. Some of those are 2.75, most of them are 2.75 hours. We'll see what we need when we open up our doors next year. So we will have, when we do our revised budget in food service, it could change quite a bit next year, which typically it does change, but we may see a noticeable difference in that. I can tell you this current year's budget at the review towards the end, we had projected a deficit. At this point, looking at where we're at, when we did the revised, we had started with our middle school and high school and hybrid, then we were not in school. When we came back, kids are starting to eat. So we are now going from a negative situation to, it looks like, a positive. So food service fund balance is also in good shape. If you look down below, it's 934,000. We did very well there. There are no concerns as far as whether food service is going to be in the red or not. Even if we did go in the red next year, we've got enough fund balance to hold that for that year. Community education, we're looking at about $100,000 variance here. And again, we're looking at current year, what's happening. Most of that $100,000 variance is actually preschool again. We do not have Pathway 1 in. We're hoping that we've signed up for those grants. We won't know until the fall what we will be entitled to. Hopefully they won't run out of money this year. We all know that they talk about childcare on the news, so hopefully some of that, we are a STAR aware rated program, so we do qualify for many of those programs. And also we are going to go down a little bit in staffing in preschool, but we just pulled over staffing as is currently. In both food service and community education, we have no wage increase. The wage increase, they're smaller units, so it doesn't have quite the impact it does on the main. So, any questions about food service and community education? We did not budget for Fund 6. That should hopefully be expended by June 30th, but we may have a little bit of carryover depending on how the projects go. We have the middle school window project they're working on, and then the project out here for the drainage right outside the doors here of the district center. So those projects are being worked on right now. Debt service, as you know, is just our building payment, and the money comes in and the money goes out just like at home. So any questions on that? All right, then if we go to the next. To the detail of the general fund, which is the next spreadsheet. Okay, as I said, the restricted and assigns, we are all very well aware of. The unassigned area and Fund 19, ESSER 2. ESSER 2 is our current year budget, part of our current year budget reductions. It's 1.2 million. It's also got a couple of things that we put on staff this year. We had 2 teachers that we put on staff right away. And then we have a health person. And then what we did is Jason came up with a list of who's at the bottom, and we just moved certain people to that amount to come up with the amount of exactly 1 million, the ESSER amount of a little over 1.2 million. That leaves our unassigned area, and this does include wage increases estimated based on our conversations. This does not include our 0.5 for increase in formula. Those spreadsheets don't come out with the increases, so we didn't monkey with it. It's about 150,000 that would change that unassigned line. So we are looking currently right now at a variance of 1.9. Now, as Ben talked, the legislature has come to agreement of what the budget targets are. The question is what will the percentage actually end up on formula, and what will the tails affect? So the tails could change the number, and the formula amount will change that 1.9 million variance.
Out of that
ESSER
1.9 million, how much of that are you estimating in wages?
The wage increase?
Yeah.
1.3 million is wage increase.
Did you say that already?
1.3.
Okay. Did I miss that? You didn't, or did you say that?
Well, that's something that we discussed in closed session.
Oh,
The
yeah.
board had
Yeah, based on a
discussed
percentage you
parameters
gave me. Yeah.
on what they thought we should put in the budget.
Yep. So we have always planned for wage increase in the budget here, and so we continue to do so. So depending on what happens with all of the apples that are still in play, will depend on actually what happens. I will say that special education, we are running very conservative on that number. We don't know what tuition is going to do, so I didn't want to overinflate that number and have it go sideways on us. So hopefully we come out better there. So we've got some areas that could come out better for us, and most likely will is our the formula, a percentage on the formula, special education. And ESSER 3, I don't think will play a role necessarily in this current year, but it will play in 22, but it will play a role in 23, 24. 22, 23, and 23, 24. It's hard to get out that far in thought process. We're just starting. They have webinars starting next week on ESSER 3, so we'll know more about what's going on with those funds. There's also summer school funding that they're talking about. We have not gotten word regarding that. So there's a whole bunch of things that we don't know yet. We have to have an approved budget by June 30th. If they tell us, if they settle for 2 and 2 on the formula, most likely they will not have the spreadsheets even run until well after June 30th. So what we will do is give you an estimate of what that will look like if we change, but probably will not do a formal change of the original budget until revised. Any questions or concerns you have, or things that we should look at?
Does anyone have any questions? All right. Anything else, Michelle?
Not on this, no.
All right. Let's move on to the long-range planning updates?
Well, basically, this is just acknowledgement that we had a community meeting last May 12th. And you all know the journey that we've been on, right? There's been lots of steps that we've taken. Certainly not going to bore you with restating that. You all know where we're at. I shared with you that we do have a meeting tomorrow to discuss some other ideas. But we're to a point where, if the board has any additional steps they'd like us to take, we will certainly try and arrange that. But I would ask for Chair Strandberg to consider, at some point asking the question of the board, what their intent is.
Can I speak?
Sure.
So as we go through this journey, we work behind the scenes to make sure that if we move forward with a bond election, that we've got all the pieces we need in place. One of the things that we vote on at our organizational meeting is a bond attorney. I talked to Ben and Jason earlier and asked their opinions on what they thought of changing bond attorneys. And it turns out that our bond attorney did retire. So we legally do have to switch bond attorneys, and I have worked with Andrea Hedke out of Dorsey in my previous district, and they did a fantastic job with a complicated, Ben knows all about one-day bonds, that complicated process of dealing with those types of elections and on the ballot type stuff. So in June, we will need to bring forth an attorney, bond attorney. Now, interestingly enough, Princeton has always voted in their organizational meeting on who their bond attorney was going to be, but it is not a requirement. But since it is something that you have repeatedly done, we will continue to do that. So there's only actually 2 bond attorneys in the whole state of Minnesota. One is Dorsey and the other, she said, was Kennedy and Graven, and I don't have any relationship with them.
So just like we will need to bring an attorney to the board for you to approve, to allow us to work with a different attorney. That would happen.
Where do you board members feel that we are in this process? Like, are we ready to, we've been getting months and months of information on this. Are we ready to make a
Are we
decision
ready
if
with
we
the
want to put this on a ballot?
With the second question, are we ready with that, with the field house?
That's what we need to discuss.
That's what we need to try to figure out. Is it maybe
Yeah,
we
that's what
are?
I mean. Is the hospital
Are
still
you
involved
ready?
in
That's what we need
discussions?
to ask.
The hospital's been pretty quiet. I mean, we're generous and, and they're very supportive. But I think that I just wouldn't count on that. I mean, if there was anything that happened, that would be an added bonus, but.
What about the city council? Any
Well,
view?
yeah, I shared at the community meeting with, basically, my interpretation from the city is, and this is based on the last conversations I've had, and I certainly can't speak for the city, but I get the feeling that they're very supportive of it. I get the feeling that they would very much like to have a seat at the table of ongoing discussions on how they may be able to contribute and participate in the operation of any kind of a field house, right? And we know we have some very rough estimates. It could be as little as $250,000 a year to operate. It could be as much as $500,000. That's kind of going to be depending on how much stuff you want to add in, those kinds of things. But I do believe that they're supportive. I believe that they want to see the table. I do think that it'd be very difficult for them or any other entity to be able to say one way or the other based upon a set of hypothetical circumstances that are, potentially 3 years down the road. So I think that's the feeling that that I got from them. I don't think that there would be any contributions or, on the capital of the building side of the thing. That would be something that I don't think they'd be interested in that, so.
Regardless of partnerships or not, we would be the fiscal agent. And so we just need to make a decision if we want to move forward with the project again or not. And then add the second question or not.
Right. And I believe timeline wise, I believe we have to have this submitted for review and comment by August, I think, or sometime in August.
Yep, August 4th.
Thank you.
Bye, Jake. Have a
See you
good
later.
last 3 days of
Good
school.
luck, Jake.
Thank
See
you.
you at graduation.
Absolutely.
Um,
Do we need a motion for
No.
something?
Not right now.
No, we just need to know if we are already
Do you
comfortable
want it on another
comfortable enough
agenda?
to move on to the June agenda. We have one meeting in June 15th,
And one in
June
July.
15th and one in July. So we literally have if we want to go out for this in November, we literally have 2 meetings that we can do this at. Sorry, so go
That's
ahead.
all right. I thought the stuff about the second question or the community center that Bond did at the community meeting, I don't know, was that sort of the first time we saw that and where he landed on where it would sit and some of that? I guess I'm ready to move forward, but I would like him here to answer some questions or to look at that again, just as a board. Because I didn't think there was a place to ask, in the community meeting was really not a place for us to ask questions. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to invite him to a
I
June
don't know,
meeting.
how do the rest of you feel about
Yeah.
that? I guess I would want him here when we decide, yep, this is what we're gonna do. Maybe
I'm
just have it
fine with that.
revisited again.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, he did share all of that at this joint city meeting, but I get where both times you've seen it, you've had other entities with you. This would be the opportunity for just the board to have those questions.
Has it been decided upon if we do the field house thing, everything that's gonna be included in there? Has that already been decided, like walking tracks and gym space and all that? That hasn't been decided yet.
Well, I think that there's a general idea of what it would be, but with every single thing, the design phase would be yet to be determined. What they have shared conceptually with us would be something that would have a track on the floor and a elevated walking track with, several courts in between, would have, I don't know how many meeting rooms, and those kinds of things or offices that there would
It's
be.
essentially that little bit of information plus a general number of square footage.
Yeah. And do we have an idea how much you wanna spend? How much you wanna bond for on that
That's,
field house?
that's what,
I mean, that's what,
Yeah, that was,
when we have
That's what he
somebody come in.
presented.
that's what he presented at that
Yeah.
community.
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Was he going to, I thought you said we were gonna get a copy of that presentation. Did that ever come out?
No, Ben might.
Well, I can send it to you right now. We did record that and it got put on our website. It got sent
Yeah.
to all employees
It was
today.
on Facebook, on the school district's Facebook site too. Chad, you have a question?
No, I mean, I think it'd be good to, like you said, to bring him in just because when I saw that layout, it seemed like the first time to see the new, I mean, it'd be good to have maybe discussions around that.
Well, and I wasn't completely clear, maybe I'm just slow to the table, but what's in question 1 and what's in question 2? And is there a difference in how it ends up if question 2 passes?
yes.
I'm
Yes.
not clear about that either, and I have people asking that and I can't answer that, so I want to be able to ask more of those questions so I can answer that.
There is a difference because some of the things that are included in question 1
Um,
would also
would-
kind of be in question
It's
2 if you were
overlap.
just doing a
an
standalone
overlap.
field house itself. But
Right.
because it's overlapping,
Yep.
you can kind of draw one.
I want to be able to speak to that,
So-
so
Yeah.
when we vote
Yeah.
and people ask me, I don't look,
Yeah.
I want to know that.
So like in question 1, if you remember back, that had a very large weight room with a very large cardio So that was part of it. It had the wrestling room area, it had the locker rooms, it had the gymnastic spaces. It had, all of those things were still in question one. And they would remain in question one, right? So question two, from my understanding, is like literally just that big extra box of field house. Now, nobody will know the difference when they walk in the facility, well, oh, this was a question one and this was a question two, because the idea, if that field house were to happen, that the design would basically have it all flow together. So, but, you know, if the field house second question didn't happen, then but question one did pass, you'd still have the weights and the cardio. But I would say that they would probably design it architecturally different.
Right.
So, you know, they will design it differently if there's a field house versus if there's not. And the other big question that could make it more complex is, you know, I could see us trying to, you know, add that the pool as, you know, have that be part of the flow of it, you know, and that might be a little trickier, but, you know, that's
He
what,
did say that was possible, did he not?
yes, he
Say
did.
It's possible, but like how to make the flow seem natural and not just that you're walking down a 200-foot long hallway to get there is, I mean, he's an architect, so he's trying to make it seem functional too, so that you're not just walking down a long corridor that's a
That could
huge
be the
waste of
walking
money.
trail.
Maybe you could make those diagrams a little bigger for us to look at. I mean, we've seen them like at, you know, I don't know.
Well, I sent you,
Yeah, well,
I just sent
you
it
just
to
sent-
you.
yeah, look now.
Okay.
You just sent it.
In the email,
Okay.
and you can make it as big as you want on your computer
Right,
screen.
I like
I think
that.
that would be very helpful that we can sit and look at and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just kind of hone in and
Mhm.
make our questions from there.
The other option we've never really talked about is just doing one question and including everything in one big,
Oh,
or
including the.
not doing question two. I mean, so we have all sorts of things to figure out.
Well, I think that the one thing that I would want to know, get the pulse of the board, because there will be certain things that we will need to have prepared for you, you know, when you were to vote on it. And I'm not even, we might even need, Michelle, do you know, do we need to have what the question will actually say
We will.
when the board votes on it?
So the first thing that the board will vote on is actually the application to submit the review and comment to the state of Minnesota, to MDE. So that needs to be done by August 4th or before August 4th, because that's the last date that we can submit that application. Once we submit that, that's when we start working on the language and that for the election, and that needs to be voted on. Adopt final resolution calling for the election must be done by August 20th. So, when there's school board meetings in August. So we would, at the latest, need to vote on that August 17th, because the 20th is Friday.
Well, would we be comfortable seeing if Vaughn could come to our June 15th meeting and answer some of these questions for us, get us some more information, have that be our formal information session? And then if we like what we're hearing, then we decide whether or not we want to move forward. And if we were to move to an action, we'd have it be action at our July 20th meeting, our one meeting in July.
I would even be willing to have a special meeting in June before the 15th, if Bond can't make it on the 15th.
If he,
I mean,
would we be all right with that if he couldn't make it on the 15th, if we had to have it earlier, or?
I'm emailing him now, so.
Yeah.
We'll see.
and then we could decide June 15th. You know, it would give maybe some more time.
Because we could even call a meeting after
Mhm.
the June 15th for a special meeting, correct? And
have
do
that
our vote
action.
there, and do our vote there.
But we can
Yeah.
put the action on the June 15th meeting too.
Yeah, just depending on his schedule.
Right.
Yeah, you won't need any formal action until you do the review and comment application.
Right, but if everything goes well at the information at our next meeting, whenever that is, whether it's a special meeting or June 15th, we could potentially put that on our agenda for July
Mhm.
for the review and comment portion of the process.
Or you can move it up to a
Or
special
we can move
meeting.
it up to a special meeting. Then we give all of you guys plenty of time to try to get things done. It makes sense because we need to approve that board attorney first, or the bond attorney, I mean. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions? Any more questions? Are we all right? Seeing what Vaughn's schedule, let's see what Vaughn's schedule is and kind of move from there.
Yeah, I mean, he'll definitely make it unless he's out of town or something.
Yeah,
Do we have the tax impact specifics?
That's in that presentation. It's, if
It's
you,
in
it's
that
just,
There's no way you
presentation.
can see that
yeah, go, yeah.
that night. Okay. Mhm.
all right, let's move on to action. Transportation agreement. Do we have a motion to accept the transportation agreement as presented?
So moved.
One second.
Motion made by Eric Minks, seconded by Chad. Is there any discussion? Do we need to do roll call vote on this?
Mhm.
All right, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Chad.
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Eric Minks,
Yes.
Eric Stramberg, yes. Sue,
Yes,
Don,
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Second reading of policy. Do we have a motion to accept the second reading of policy as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Sue, seconded by Jim. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Policy is approved. There are no additions to the agenda. We do have, let's look at the future meetings real quick. Just a reminder that graduation is June 4th at 7 o'clock. Barb will be sending out something to everyone, I'm sure.
Yep, Barb always sends out a very detailed message to board, so you'll be getting that. We're still working out lots of details. We're still planning on outdoor graduation, but they'll also have the indoor set up, if we need to move in.
Should we just move in anyway? So we're not worried, not bound by weather, now that some of the restrictions of.
Well, the problem is that I don't think we'd get around the mask piece. The mask piece with having that many people in when we look at those,
In the gym.
when you look at, they do have special guidelines for all businesses. And we would fall under that. And we just, I guess we have a feeling that people would prefer to not have to wear masks. So that's why we're still moving on the outdoor deal.
And you get more people to attend, right, at the outdoor versus
I
indoor?
think they're giving the same.
Well, we're giving
tickets.
6
Oh,
tickets.
Even on
Just
indoor?
in case they have to go indoors, they really kind of have to stick.
Do you
to
know how many graduates we're gonna have? Any
Yeah,
idea?
Six tickets, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't have off the top of my head. I do know that, I mean, if you do the 6 tickets time, let's say 250 graduates, I think my fuzzy math is like 1,500 people. And the graduates are gonna actually be up in the home bleachers,
Oh.
I believe, and the everyone else will be on the field,
I
kind of
hear
in
you.
lawn chairs.
They bring
looking
their
out.
own chairs, right?
Okay.
People bring their own chairs. I think that's what I heard.
We're gonna give that a try. I mean, we found that quite a few other districts are doing that and,
With their own flags.
yeah, so
It is Princeton.
I would imagine 1,500 people,
These are before.
still gonna be a lot of people.
You ever check?
I don't know how many people can fit on a football field.
Yeah. Little blanket.
Anyone else have anything? We have to,
Well, real quick, I know we gotta get moving here, but if we do have to move inside, do all those 6 tickets still get to go inside? I mean,
Yes,
That was.
because that's what we've always had done when we
It's
were,
always been 6.
it's always been
tickets.
6.
Okay.
So
So we
the
should
only
do-
problem will be if we go inside, we'll have to try and do the mask thing and, that is what it is. so. The only, the biggest, I did okay some expenditures today to work with a contract with a business who does sound and lights. Because that's the biggest drawback is the sound, people want to hear at
Outside
graduation.
is the biggest
Outside, and it's hard to hear if you rely on just our stadium speakers.
Back to the racetrack, make sure that they
I think-
postpone races.
I know I think Barb's already
I'm
got
sure
that.
Barb's got that.
Yeah, she thought of it already.
I was sitting in my house last week and I couldn't even hear
Yeah.
myself think. They
Yeah.
were so loud.
I'll have to check. We did talk about that, but I don't know where that's at. Okay,
All right, we have a motion to close the board meeting. Bear with me here. The next item on the agenda is a closed session that will allow the school board to receive legal advice related to the litigation the district is involved in related to the construction of the high school tennis courts. The legal case is filed in Mille Lacs County District Court and is titled Independent School District Number 477 versus Princeton versus Midwest Asphalt Corporation versus Court Surfaces and Repair, Inc. The open meeting law, Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 3B states that the school board may close a meeting pursuant to the attorney-client privilege. During the closed meeting, the school board will discuss with its attorney the outcome of the recent jury trial and potential for future proceedings, including the possibility of appeal. The board will discuss with its attorney the strengths and weaknesses of the parties' positions and how the district intends to proceed in response to the court's ruling. There is a need for absolute confidentiality because the district's position would be compromised if such discussion took place in public and could be overheard by adverse parties or their attorneys. Accordingly, pursuant to the law I have cited, I will hereby entertain a motion that this meeting be closed pursuant to the attorney-client privilege.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Eric Mink, seconded by Chad. Any discussion?